The Washington Drum Circle is a 50-year tradition that has been occurring every Sunday at Meridian Hill Park, located in the northwest area of Washington, D.C. In 1965, after the assassination of Malcolm X, a group of drummers began to give their offering to their ancestors through music. This ritual began as a reflection of the pain they felt for their ancestors and what they experienced as oppressed people.
There are a lot of performances now being done in Fort Reno, just as we do this drumming here. So again, the culture stayed alive where these Africans touched it with their spirit. So they came out and drummed and danced all night that day, all night. It went on into a week and went on and on and on. So then the following year, they had celebrations across the city to acknowledge the DC Emancipation Day. That went on for a while, until the 50s, until the rise of the Nation of Islam and the rise of the Martin Luther King's movement, nonviolence movement. So then all of the liberation issues around black people was enfolded into these two areas. So you heard very little about Juneteenth, which is the last day slaves were freed, and or DC Emancipation Day. We were first in freedom, and now we last in democracy. This is the history that must be told. And it's for this reason I maintain this circle here since Malcolm X passed, to make certain that we continue to honor our ancestors and as descendants of those slaves to hold homage for them, that there will be a portal for our generations to come to have our relationship with Mother Africa. So each week we have a public assembly of the First Amendment Act for us to come and express ourselves and pay tribute to that. In the 70s and 80s and 90s, this circle was affectionately known. It wasn't called a circle back then, by the way. It was just the drummers and dancers. It was just the Malcolm X drummers and dancers. We only got that name because we saluted Malcolm X that day. We weren't really a group. It was just the people's spirit wanted to honor him, awakening us to the truth about Islam and how to continue to be a freedom fighter. And likewise for Kwame Ture, who also visited this park on several occasions throughout the 70s and 80s as a part of the Revolutionary Party. The African Revolutionary Party would have an annual African Liberation Day festival here. There was one here and one in Anacostia Park, one in August and one in September. But this was a political group fighting for liberation of Africans all over the world, and particularly at home. So we will come together every year. The park will be filled with thousands of people, and Park Service stopped us from doing that, saying that we could not have any groups along the sidewalk, that was park land and we couldn't do it, and they shut us down, and that destroyed that group.
Drum Circle is one of the top 10 things to do in Washington, D.C., and is well known around the globe. People from many different ethnic backgrounds have gravitated toward the festivities for entertainment and good vibes.
Jimmy Carter proclaimed June National Black Music Month in 1974 in tribute to the black music industry. The Black Music Association at that time was all the black stars and producers in one place, and they had an annual conference. And we created a Capital City Black Music Association here. I was one of the original executive board members for the Capital City Black Music Association. I had the great opportunity to serve there as an industrial development specialist. I was the only one on the board for development. The rest were artists, producers, managers, radio personality, and professors from Howard University School of Communications. Our dean was Dean Lionel Barrow from Howard University Communications. I was his special assistant. Upon working with him, I had the opportunity to draft the legislation for the DC cable channel, which we now have. And the legislation went through. BET was one of the first people bidding to get the contract. They did not win, but I made certain that the people had a freedom of speech included in that legislation. So we made certain that provision was there for the DC Public Access Channel that you now have. And I encourage freedom of speech, the First Amendment right of assembly, religion, and creative expression. And that's what this circle represents here. They didn't believe they could come together and praise God in their traditional way, but they wanted to do that. So all over the city on Emancipation Day, they were frightened that it was not true that they were free. So they finally accepted. So small little celebrations happened all over the city, and they came to the two highest points in the city to give homage to their ancestors for honoring their prayers for many, many years. And that's here at Meridian Hill Park. It was a hill. There was no street here at this time. It's the highest point in the Northwest section.
Drum Circle is supposed to be a spiritual experience for you to share with your people and ancestors, to bring warmth to your heart and put a smile on your face. I sometimes feel a more spiritual connection here than in church, said Posey.